So I did a clip breakdown of a clip from the "How Can We Get Along" panel debate, which happened at Politicon. That panel debate had Kyle Kulinski, Bakari Sellers, Charlie Kirk, and the Daily Wire third stringer on there, and it was really, really spicy. And so it was the most entertaining, although it's really invigorating to watch because of the stupidity exhibited specifically by the Daily Wire third stringer. Interestingly enough, Charlie Kirk and Kyle Kulinski actually came to a ton of agreement points. And a little something interesting that I caught like Charlie Kirk, he was attempting to I think tap my the Daily Wire third stringer on his arm to be like stop what you're doing, like you're making us look bad. Because Charlie Kirk agreed with Kyle on a bunch of stuff because that was the common sense agreements that they had. And so he was trying to tap on the Daily Wire third stringer's hand to be like, yo, stop, you're making us look bad. That was pretty funny. So the previous clip that we were looking at was basically Kyle shreds the Daily Wire third stringer to bits. He attempts to make these really stupid comments. It was unbelievable, about being pro-life, and Kyle essentially checks him, and then the Daily Wire third stringer just falls into his trap like the imbecile that he is, like the moron that he is. He falls into the trap that Kyle set up for him, and he essentially proceeds to do it later on again. He says, there's one party that's for due process in the United States. And what's his evidence for that? A case that wasn't actually anything to do with due process. It had to do with a hearing. A non-legal hearing. This dude doesn't even know what due process is. And as I went over when I did that last clip breakdown, the party that's for due process has been the Democratic Party for the last 3 decades, except for it's been more. Now, obviously, a lot of the corporate Democrats aren't really down with due process either, sort of like the Bush administration wasn't. And that's an issue I'm all down to criticize. But the Trump administration right now, despite the Fifth Amendment stating that no one shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process, it doesn't say only American citizens. And so the Supreme Court has come to the conclusion that anyone who sets feet on this soil deserves due process. They are mandated to have due process by law, and the Trump administration has stated that they don't need to give them due process. So the irony was unbelievable. The way that I stated it was basically, if you ask Vegeta, he would say that his hypocrisy level is over 9,000. Now, as I continue to watch this panel debate, it looks like they got into it again because the Daily Wire third stringer is quite the moron, if you couldn't already tell. A very smug douche. I'm sure you guys could tell that part. That was very, very obvious to tell. In this one, they're going to be speaking about the Saudi journalist, and it's going to get really, really cringy because he's going to attempt to make the argument, the Daily Wire third stringer, he's going to attempt to make the argument that that Saudi Arabia is just a talking point for the left, and that there are plenty of countries who do bad. And also, I'm gonna tack on a little extra short clip at the end because it was a little interjection that he threw right towards the end of smugness and douchebaggery. So the Daily Wire third stringer was in no way in a drought of the amount of douchiness that he had. But check this out. We're going to come back and talk about it.
It's absurd, and I'm very pleased that we're speaking frankly, because on the question of criminal justice reform, more broadly, when President Trump speaks about law and order, speaks about people not crossing our border illegally, using our resources illegally, deporting criminals who are in violation of the law, his poll numbers shoot through the roof, even among Democrats. Even Democrats don't want blanket amnesty. I think law and order is a big winner. I think our country's better off for it, and we should keep running on it. Bring everybody together. If you actually care deeply about law and order, then I'd like for you to call for the breakup of the U.S.-Saudi alliance, because we gave them over $100 billion in weapons, genocide in Yemen.
Totally agrees on that.
If you agree, great. I'm happy.
Unbelievably vocal about how Saudi Arabia is the number one.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And also, I want to agree with you on another point. You said we should put more criminals in jail. I agree that the fraudsters on Wall Street should all be in jail.
Okay.
I'm I'm not opposed to putting criminals behind bars, even if they work on Wall Street. I have no look. Wall Street often votes Democrats, so I've got no political allegiance to them as it is. As for the Saudi alliance, though, I find this to be a huge distraction from the Democrats. You're alluding, I suppose, to the extrajudicial killing of Jamal Khashoggi by the Saudi government. Jamal Khashoggi was a radical Islamist. One of his main criticisms of Saudi Arabia was
can we just stop that? I mean, can the man rest in peace?
Law and order, and this is a bad person.
This is why the title.
Let me finish.
I'm not, because this is why the title.
Well, I'm going to finish.
This is why the title of this panel is what it is.
Khashoggi was a radical Islamist because in the 1980s, he was good friends with Osama bin Laden.
So was
wept when bin Laden died. One of his main criticisms of the Saudi government is that the Saudi government is too pro-Israel.
But I'm not going to cheer. I think
he's not a United States citizen.
I think
a lot of governments do a lot of bad things.
This is why.
In particular, we're focusing on this. It's because the Democrats can't find any issue to run on in the midterm election.
Remember when you said you believed in due process like 5.5 minutes ago, and now you're with the killing of a journalist?
But I mean, like, I think that. But first of all, I think that.
Not you, him.
So when
Islamist sympathizer. I want to point out, though, I didn't bring up the topic. My friend over here brought up the topic, and I'm happy to answer it. And this happens all the time. On the left, you talked about the U.S.-Saudi alliance. On the left, this always happens. The left brings up a talking point as an attack on the right. The right responds, and then they say, whoa,
attack. Charlie agreed with me.
Okay. Nobody's attacking. I'm not attacking anybody.
Can I get in on the Saudi debate? This is something where Michael and I might have some disagreement.
We only disagree on like 3 things.
This might be one of them. I think Saudi Arabia is one of the great enemies of the West and of America. I'm sick and tired of appeasing them. 15 out of 19 of the hijackers are Saudi Arabian. We should not be transacting hundreds of billions of dollars in arms sales to fund their unethical war, probably illegal war in Yemen. Here's what Michael and I will agree, and you might disagree. They're also the #1 funder of madrasas across the world, which is hotbed centers of radical Islam and terror cells. They end up being ISIS terrorists. And so I think the U.S.-Saudi relationship has gone way out of bounds, and they never paid a price for what they did at 9/11.
Yeah, I agree with that.
They never paid a price for the worst terrorist attack, probably the worst domestic attack since 9/11, since Pearl Harbor, on American soil in the last 100 years. So this is something we could agree on.
Totally agree.
And Khashoggi, I would actually agree with Michael that there's probably a little more coverage on this than would be usual. That's despite the point. But I think it's highlighting a broader context of how Saudi Arabia has been lying to us. We've been funding them. We've been giving them arms. We've allowed them whatever they want. And we have yet to fully allow the 9/11 victims' families to sue the Sovereign Wealth Fund of Saudi Arabia, bankrupt that country, and make them pay those families for what they did on 9/11.
All right, very good. We're going to move to a slightly different line of questioning here.
Nuanced conversation we can have when it comes to that issue, but my final point will be this.
Very quickly.
I think that people who are pro-life should go even beyond being consistent to your extent and argue against the bombing of 8 countries that we're currently doing right now.
All right.
He wants to stop bombing all those countries that Obama started wars in.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
I honestly don't understand this guy and what his shtick is. This is the type of dude where I really come into question as to whether or not this guy really believes what he's saying because of how stupid it is. And the thing is, especially the thing that makes this all the more absurd, is the fact that Charlie Kirk agreed completely with Kyle. They were in complete alignment, because any American person should be in alignment with that. It doesn't make any sense. Just as Charlie Kirk broke down, Charlie Kirk actually gave a really damn good breakdown. He's like, they didn't get any blowback for, all the terrorists on 9/11 being from Saudi Arabia, and that, remember there was the lawsuit, there was a law passed that Obama vetoed, but it got passed by the Congress anyways, which allowed the victims of 9/11 to sue Iran. Now Iran's never going to pay them, so it doesn't matter. But what? Oh my God! Remember, those are Republican-controlled Congress, so the dumbassery is of course present. Now, the fact that this guy, remember, Jamal Khashoggi was someone who walked into the embassy in Istanbul, he was literally, his fingers were cut off while he was still alive, and his body was dismembered. It was like, that's such a horrifying experience that for even the people who did it, it's so hard to stomach, that the person who was there as like the forensics guy was like, listen to music because it helps you be able to actually, basically stop thinking about it. It's so crazy because if you think about it, imagine being the wife of this man, imagine being the child of this man, imagine just any family member, brother, sister, mom, dad, I mean, anything. Come on, anything. You know what I mean? So it's like, just, it's tough to think about, you know what I mean? Like, that's the kind of thing that's insane, but it makes it all the worse when someone's a dissident journalist, and that's the reason why it happened, because in our government especially, we are supposed to, and I think that we do to a degree. This administration doesn't do it very much, but obviously it's an understatement, but, valuing a legitimate media and a legitimate press that keeps the powerful in check, because that's what's supposed to happen. People, the only way to actually keep people in power accountable is to have a fully functioning one that actually has emphasis on it, a free press, a legitimate press, to keep the powerful in check, to keep the government in check. Otherwise, that system of government just falls flat on its face. That's what ends up happening. So the fact that this guy, I don't even know where he gets this idea that it's a talking point. And again, really honestly, anybody from either side claiming talking points, but at this specific time, in today's time right now during the Trump administration, like screenshot today, for the right wing to be complaining about talking points or to be accusing the left of talking points is so laughable, because all the right, or at least the Trumpists do, all they do is just gish gallop these stats that don't mean anything about unemployment. They do the unemployment blitz. They go Hispanic unemployment at all-time low, African American unemployment at all-time low, unemployment going low. Look at this quarter of GDP growth. Oh my God, our problems are being solved. And also, we're being massive hypocrites because all of these trends happened under Obama. These quarterly gains were far higher numbers under Obama, but we didn't give him any credit during that time, and now we're giving Trump all the credit. So the idea that the party that supports Trump, or at least the people in the party who support Trump, whose main tactic it is just to gish gallop these stats, which we see that with Charlie Kirk every goddamn debate he's in. That's literally, he's got two things, right? The gish gallop of economics, of the economy, and then he's got Venezuela. The Venezuela meme. It's, the capitalized lowercase letter meme of Venezuela. It's really cringy. But, I don't even want to criticize Charlie Kirk in this video, because he was spot on about Saudi Arabia. He agreed with Kyle. He and Kyle actually ended up agreeing on a lot of stuff, which is a good thing. That makes sense. But also, he also made a statement about like how there are these talking points about the drug war, which is also ridiculous, because it's like, dude, what are you talking about? What do you mean, like, talking points on the drug war? It's a serious issue that people care about. They want to unfill our prisons. We have the biggest prison population in the world with not even close to the highest amount of people, so it doesn't make any goddamn sense. Think about it. Both China and India have over 1 billion people. So it's like, okay, what the hell? How do we have the highest prison population? It doesn't make any sense. We have like 1/3 of both of those countries. So anyways, the point being is that this guy is the biggest douchebag ever, the Daily Wire third stringer, the most smug douchebag on the planet. That title used to belong to Steven Crowder, because not only was he just overtly sort of deceptive, but he was also, on top of that, a really smug douchebag, in a way that essentially, at least in my opinion, was unmatched. Now now this title belongs to the Daily Wire third stringer. Now, on top of that, the little tad clip that I added on the tail end of that, because I just had to add that because it was important, is that, this dude, he's so, like, this just adds more to the argument against him saying talking points, like the irony of him talking about talking points, because in response to let's stop bombing the wars from a Democrat, like a person who is a progressive, who was a Bernie supporter, who was in opposition to Hillary Clinton, who criticized Barack Obama at every turn. You're going to tell that guy, like, throw out this talking point of Obama starting the wars. First of all, the war on terror was not started under Bush, not started under Obama. It was started under Bush. The Iraq and Afghanistan war, which are the biggest ones, were started under Bush. And on top of that, obviously speaking, it's irrelevant that Obama started the wars. What you're doing right there is proving that you're a hack and a fraud, because instead of saying, okay, Kyle, let's do this, we agree on this, let's stop doing these wars. No, instead you just throw out this very stupid talking point, and trying to be this partisan hack. If you've never seen partisan hackery, or sorry, I should rephrase that. I should say, if that's not partisan hackery, I don't know what partisan hackery is. Because instead of being like, oh, you're a progressive who was in opposition to Hillary Clinton, was critical of Barack Obama at every turn, and despite you making a clear principled argument, I'm going to throw out a stupid partisan argument that doesn't make any sense and that's totally irrelevant to the conversation. I hate this guy. I mean, he's such a horrible person. He's a terrible person. I mean, his comments on the death penalty, one showing, saying he loved the death penalty. Who loves the death penalty? What the fuck? It literally kills innocent people. Well, we know that for a fact. What kind of an insane person says that? And then you're apologizing for Saudi Arabia's, disembowelment of a journalist, a dissident journalist. And then you're going to say, oh, the drug war is just talking points. Fuck you, man. You are the biggest douchebag on the entire planet. I cannot stand this guy. This guy is a pure, unadulterated, massive douchebag. I hate the Daily Wire third stringer. He is easily the most hateable person that I've seen in the political sphere out of anybody.